Please like and subscribe to the channel. Beneath the same sun. The sun rose slowly over Cap-Haïtien, spilling gold across the tiled rooftops and the blue sweep of the bay. The air was alive with the rhythm of the city, roosters crowed, vendors called out their first prices of the day, and the smell of fresh bread drifted from small bakeries tucked into narrow streets. From the boulevard, you could see the ocean stretching endlessly, reflecting the sky like a vast mirror. In this city, beauty was never quiet, it spoke through laughter, through waves, through the pulse of life that moved to its own timeless drumbeat. It was into this rhythm that David Mercelin returned, though not as the man most would expect him to be. To the world, David was a successful contractor, a Haitian American who had built a name for himself across continents. He had worked with international partners, earning a multi-million-dollar contract with the United Nations Security Council to prepare new housing developments for the incoming security forces in Haiti. He was known for his professionalism, his generosity, and his unwavering connection to his homeland. But beneath the surface of that success was a man quietly disillusioned, not by his work, but by love. For years, David had dreamed of finding a Haitian woman who carried the warmth and strength of his roots, someone who reminded him of his mother's grace, his grandmother's resilience. But every time he thought he had found her, the dream shattered. The women he met in Haiti, charmed by his wealth and soft-spoken nature, saw him as a ticket to comfort. And when he traveled back to the US or Europe for business, he returned to find that their affections had been replaced by the attention of men who offered excitement instead of devotion, the T-Bregins, as his cousins would say, the smooth-talking players who made promises with empty pockets. After one heartbreak too many, David decided that if he were to find love in Haiti, it would be real, not born of money, not driven by status. He wanted to meet someone who would choose him for who he was when the world wasn't watching. So he devised a plan that even his closest friends thought was madness. When he next came to Cap-Haïtien, he would come as a man of modest means, not the contractor from New York, not the UN consultant, not the businessman with imported suits in a luxury vehicle. He would come as a chauffeur, a motorcycle taxi driver, blending into the heartbeat of the city, seeing people as they were when no one was trying to impress him. He rented a small, weathered apartment above a bakery near Rue 18, bought a used red motorcycle, and traded his pressed shirts for worn jeans, boots, and a simple t-shirt. On his first morning, he stood at the window overlooking the waking city. The ocean breeze carried laughter and distant music. He felt alive in a way he hadn't in years. Let them see the man, he murmured to himself, not the money. As he joined the stream of motorbike taxis on the boulevard, he was clumsy at first, too polite, too careful. The other drivers teased him. New guy, you drive like you afraid of your own bike. They laughed. But over the days, he learned their rhythm, their jokes, the way they bantered about politics, football, and women while waiting for fares. For the first time in a long while, David felt invisible, and free. The first encounter. It was late afternoon when he first saw Elise. The sky was turning amber as the sun dipped low, painting the sea with streaks of fire. David had stopped near the marketplace to rest when he saw her exit a shop, balancing a box on her hip. She wasn't dressed to impress, a simple linen blouse, jeans, and her hair pulled back loosely, yet something about her presence drew his eye. Her movements were confident but graceful, and her expression carried both focus and warmth. A sudden breeze caught her hat and sent it flying into the street. David, reacting before he thought, caught it midair with one hand. She turned, startled, then smiled, that kind of smile that feels like sunlight breaking through clouds. "Thank you," she said, her voice calm but edged with curiosity. "Anytime," he replied, handing it to her. "Seems like the wind has good taste." She laughed, soft but genuine. "You're funny for a taxi driver." He grinned. "I have to keep people entertained while I'm waiting for rides." They talked briefly. She needed a lift up toward the hills, to a district called Saint Philomene. Along the way, their conversation flowed easily. She spoke about her passion for designing local artisan goods, about how she wanted to open a cooperative for women who made hand-woven crafts. David listened, quietly admiring the fire in her words. She wasn't like the others, she didn't flaunt or flirt. She spoke with purpose, with dreams bigger than her own comfort. When they reached her stop, she smiled again and said, "Maybe next time, I'll hire you for a tour instead of a ride." David nodded, hiding the strange flutter he felt in his chest. "You know where to find me," he said. That night, back in his small apartment, David couldn't shake the image of her. The way she looked out at the sea as they rode, the way her laughter carried above the hum of the motor. He didn't even know her full name, only Elise. But something inside him whispered that he would see her again. The days that followed, over the next weeks, David saw Elise often, sometimes by chance, sometimes by intention. She'd call him for rides, but their conversations went far beyond destinations. They spoke of everything: the challenges of building something real in a country full of obstacles, the ache of wanting change, the hope that lingered despite it all. Elise was clever, curious, and unafraid to challenge him. When he told her he worked as a chauffeur, she nodded thoughtfully and said, "That must be hard work, dealing with all kinds of people." Her respect seemed genuine. She never cried about his past, never looked disappointed by his simplicity. In her presence, David forgot the layers of disguise. He found himself laughing more than he had in years, rediscovering the joy of simplicity, shared meals at small street stalls, watching sunsets from the seaside boulevard, listening to old compa songs from a nearby bar. And yet, there was something mysterious about Elise too. She often disappeared for days, saying only that she had family obligations. When he asked what she did for work, she answered vaguely, "I'm helping with some business matters," she'd say. He respected her privacy, assuming it had to do with her artisan project. But there was a quiet grace in her that seemed larger than her words, a confidence born not from wealth or status, but from knowing exactly who she was. One evening, as they sat by the water, watching the lights of the ships flicker in the distance, Elise said softly, "You know, most people look at this city and only see its chaos. But I see potential, like the sea. It looks restless, but it holds everything we need if we know where to look." David smiled faintly. "Maybe that's why I came back. I thought I'd find peace somewhere else, but I think it's here, under this same sun." Their eyes met briefly, and something unspoken passed between them, not just attraction, but recognition. Two souls searching for truth in a world full of masks. Whispers and doubts. Not everyone approved of their closeness. The other chauffeurs began to tease David. "That girl's too good for a moto driver like you," they'd say. "She's probably got a man in Port-au-Prince sending her money." He laughed it off, but the words lingered. Even he began to wonder, could someone like Elise truly see him for who he was? Or was she simply drawn to the idea of a simple man because it felt safe for now? Meanwhile, Elise's aunt, with whom she lived, questioned her too. "You're spending too much time with that chauffeur," she warned. "A woman like you should think about your future." Elise would only smile and say, "Maybe my future is with someone who drives, not someone who owns." Both of them were walking a tightrope between truth and illusion, neither realizing how closely their lives were already intertwined. A hidden world revealed. One morning, David arrived at the site of his official construction project, disguised, as always, under his work clothes and helmet. From afar, he saw a sleek black SUV pull up near the new housing development. Out stepped a woman in a tailored white blouse and sunglasses. For a moment, he didn't recognize her. But when she turned, the sunlight caught her face. It was Elise. David froze. She walked through the site with quiet authority, speaking with the foreman, checking documents. The men treated her with deference. She moved like someone used to command. When she noticed him, she paused only briefly before continuing her work. She didn't acknowledge him. That night, confusion swirled in his mind. Why had she been there? Who was she really? The next day, he saw her again, this time waiting for him at their usual seaside spot. "You saw me," she said simply. He nodded, not angry, but hurt. "You work with them?" "Yes," she replied. "My family runs one of the local contracting firms partnering with the UN project." The air grew heavy between them. "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you?" she asked gently. He looked away, ashamed. For the first time, the walls between them were stripped bare. They both had played the same game, hiding who they were, testing the other's heart. After a long silence, Elise spoke again. "I wanted to know if someone could love me without knowing my name, my father's business, or what people think I can offer. I've seen too many men pretend to love me because of it. So I tried to be invisible." David laughed softly, almost in disbelief. "Then we were both pretending for the same reason." "Yes," she said, a small smile curving her lips. "And somehow, in pretending, we found something real." He took her hand, their fingers trembling slightly. "Maybe that's the only way to find truth in a world like this, to start with nothing." Elise's eyes softened. "You were never nothing to me. Even when I thought you were just a driver, I saw the man. That's all I ever wanted to see." The tension between them melted into laughter, soft at first, then full, joyous. The kind of laughter that comes from relief, from love that survived its own test. A love unmasked. In the weeks that followed, their bond deepened. The disguises no longer mattered. They visited each other's worlds. She joined him at the market, where he still kept his motorcycle to stay connected to the people, and he accompanied her to official events, proud to stand by her side not as a driver, but as a partner. Their love became a quiet story told across the city, the chauffeur and the heiress who had found each other without realizing they were searching. Those who once whispered now watched with admiration, reminded of an old saying, the heart does not ask for a title before it loves. Even Mireille and Jean-Michel, now quietly running a cooperative that supplied goods to Elise's firm, heard about them. Some stories, Mireille said to her husband one day, remind us that truth always finds its way, just like the sea returns to the shore. The wedding. Months later, the church bells of Cap-Haïtien rang with joy. The celebration spilled onto the boulevard, where the ocean breeze carried the sound of music and laughter. Flowers lined the steps of the old cathedral, and people from every walk of life came to witness the union of two souls who had tested fate and won. Elise walked down the aisle in a gown that shimmered like moonlight, elegant, unpretentious, glowing with grace. David waited at the altar, his eyes never leaving hers. As they exchanged vows, an elder's voice rose from the crowd, when spider webs unite, they can tie up a lion. It was the same proverb once spoken at another wedding, a quiet echo of love stories that came before. When they kissed, sunlight streamed through the stained glass windows, bathing them in gold. Outside, the city erupted in applause. And as they stood together on the church steps, hand in hand, looking out toward the horizon, the sea glittered beneath the same sun that had watched them both from the beginning, two souls once hidden, now fully seen, shining as one. Beneath the same sun, reminds us that love is not about what we own or what we hide, it's about what remains when the masks fall away. In a city built between mountains and sea, where every sunrise brings both struggle and beauty, two hearts found their truth not through wealth, but through humility, faith, and the courage to see one another clearly. Because sometimes, to find what's real, you have to start with nothing, and let love build the rest.